Hello, my name's Kyle Rumps. I'm a first year MBA student at the University of Denver. Just back in Denver today discussing the panels that I had the fortune of attending on my final day of South by Southwest. If you've been following along with my videos, you do know that the two panels before the one I'm about to discuss I did not necessarily connect with on the strongest level because I thought that most of the information shared, was not particularly insightful. But I am glad to say that the final speaker of the day, the keynote by Bluesky, was one of my favorite and most insightful sessions of the entire trip. I went into this honestly not expecting much. I have sat through more than one panel that I felt was quite salesy. So I was honestly kind of expecting that. I was expecting it to be much more of a pitch for why you should use Bluesky. And I always thought of Bluesky as simply just a Twitter clone. My understanding was that when Elon bought Twitter, they started Bluesky because they rightfully predicted that he was going to destroy the platform. And so it was a business opportunity for them. But what I didn't realize is that there's massive differences in the technology and the approach that Bluesky takes to their platform. First and foremost is that it is not a central platform like every other social media. It is what they refer to as a protocol network. And essentially what this means is, I'll use just a comparison between a typical social media like Instagram. So with Instagram, you go to Instagram, that is the app. You have your personal feed, which these days is full of advertisements, and maybe you might see a couple of people you follow post, but a bunch of sponsored posts and highlighted algorithmic posts are added in there. And the only other option you have for your feed is your For You page, which is essentially just a total algorithm of fresh content that you can decide to interact with. I think there's issues with that for a number of reasons, but instead of spending time on that, I want to show or speak to what is different about Bluesky, which is it really is a developer tool at the end of the day. So with Bluesky, any developer can make any app within their protocol network. So this includes custom feeds. They have over 50,000 custom feeds. So they have a chronological feed and an algorithmic feed. But let's say you want a feed that just talks about all the prominent scientists in the world. You want to also have cat videos and recipes. You can subscribe to a feed that is just that. They also have custom moderation settings. So they do have moderation built into it, but let's say that you want a moderation tool for AI art. This means that you can just quickly add this to your network, and then whenever you see AI art, it will either filter it out or flag it. You can also do the same for politics. So it really creates a situation where the entire experience is personalizable. But also from a business aspect, I think that this is just genius for a social media, because essentially what it becomes is a new app store. And we all know about Apple's app store, the huge margins that they get off of that, and the relatively low cost that it takes to operate. But essentially, they are setting up a situation where their business model cannot be about farming clicks and engagement, but farming awesome apps, feeds, and moderation, and a host of other things that developers can create and people can consume. I also think it's really cool because by creating these different feeds, different apps, you can make really hyper-specific things for people. So for example, nobody in the world is going to spend the money, time, and capital that it would take to make a social media that is just for looking at pictures of, I don't know, cat feet. Or let's use a better example, the one that they used, which was whenever you're going to the bathroom. They have one called Flush. And whenever you go to the bathroom, you click it and it notifies everyone in the feed. You would never spend money, time, or capital to create that on your own. But with Bluesky, a developer made this, and tons of people are actually utilizing it. It's a little silly, I realize, but it just highlights the fact that you can get hyper-specific apps, feeds, and it also means that because it's a protocol network, anybody that is using it, if let's say I'm using a feed, I decide that, I hate this, I hate what Bluesky is doing, I can just download another app that still pulls from the protocol network. So all of my followers, my posts, all of my data is still there, but I can completely change the app that I'm using, which I think is brilliant. There was a lot more that they mentioned just about, choice of feed, choice of moderation, all data being self-hosted, which means, again, when you change apps within the protocol, you still have access to all of that. It incentivizes developers to create apps on their network and be really creative. It also makes it so it's quote unquote billionaire proof, because, if a billionaire like Elon were to come in and buy the whole thing and add a new algorithm that's just horrible, you don't have to have that algorithm. You can use your own. You can build your own. So I think all of that's really, really interesting. I think the one question or concern that it raises for me is the siloing of thought and division that we already see prevalent from decades of social media. It's very, very clear that people have become more thought siloed, more partisan, more in their own, worlds of like, all I see is, to get political, some people only see Republican content. And so that's all they know, and they get in this feedback loop. Some people on the opposite side only see, leftist or Democratic content. And so that's what their world is. And these two people have two incredibly different realities. I think that the question Bluesky raises for me is, if you can fully customize this, you can essentially bake yourself into incredibly tight thought silos where you're not getting all of that information. And I think most people, especially where we're at now from a comfort standpoint, probably would opt into, I don't want to see things I don't like, so I'm just going to really silo in here. And I think that creates problems of division. I think it makes questions about, fake news or alternative facts and how people are consuming different types of data. So I really would have loved for them to talk on either what they're doing to prevent this or why that shouldn't be a problem, outside of, just saying, well, you don't have to do that. Well, most people probably will, because it's comfortable and people like comfort. So although I think it's an excellent platform, a really insightful discussion, I learned a lot about protocol networks, and I didn't even know what that was going into it, and just the origins of Bluesky, and I think they'll be incredibly successful. I do think that it actually worsens some of the negative externalities associated with social media. So I'm excited to see how it ends up playing out over the next 5 to 10 years. So hopefully, after I know I talked a lot there, I'm hoping you guys learned a little bit about Bluesky, what's got me excited about it, what are some of my concerns. And with that, I will say goodbye. And I had a wonderful time at South by Southwest. And as you can probably see, I learned a whole bunch. So thank you so much.